And I think the other one is then the earth element, right?
Yes. So then it's kapha dosha. So kapha is earth and water, and it's almost the same amount of each. So you can think of mud. So all the qualities, I know that the gunas we talked about in the water element, in the air element as well, but the gunas or the qualities of kapha is heaviness, because if you think of mud, it's really heavy. There's no lightness to it. There's no fire in there, so it's very cold. So you can think of also kapha people and vata people would be more, their tendency would be to be cold, versus a pitta is always hot. It's like no matter what the temperature is, they want the air come in, they want the windows open. That's one of the things you can think of to see what dosha is more dominant in you. And then it's heavy, it's dense, it's slow. You can think of also mucus in the body. So the lungs are the home of kapha dosha. So if there's a lot of mucus coming out, that's a lot of kapha in the body. So that's one sign of, and we see this a lot in springtime, because spring is also kapha season. So there's a lot of humidity, there's a lot of water in the air, and there is heaviness. You might find early spring, it's hard to move. It's hard to get motivated. It's that slowness of kapha settles inside of us. So people who have a lot of this dosha naturally at the time of conception, and it's in their constitution, they tend to be bigger boned. So like their bones are bigger, their chest is bigger, like a good voice of an opera singer. Usually singers have a lot of this dosha. And because they have a really big chest area, they have a really big heart. So they're the kindest of all the doshas. They're very family oriented. They're very loyal. They're very stable. So we always say a vata person needs a kapha friend to calm them down and bring them down to earth, literally. So a kapha friend would be really good with vata. And so usually kapha is the constitution that has the least amount of problems. They're usually really chill. They're really calm, stable. They're that friend that you always go to if you have any problems. You probably can think of a person in your life that has these qualities. And so when they get out of balance, and if they get out of balance, which is very rare, they can become very intense in a different format than a pitta, which means they're very headstrong. So if they have made up their mind and they don't want to do something, they become like a heavy rock, like a mountain. You cannot move a kapha. And I know this because my husband's a kapha. So for the most part, he's so loving and so kind and generous and all of these things. But then when he doesn't want to do something, I know I can't move a mountain. So I just let it be until he decides that he wants to do that. So these are, if you know that, then you don't try to fight a mountain and move it. And so that can also create, if they're not in a good space, then that can create depression. So if they're the ones that would stay at home, and usually a kapha doesn't really want to move and do things because they're happy at home, but they're very jolly. They're very joyful. They're very happy. If they're not happy, then you know that it's moving more towards that darkness of depression. And so it's good now that vata friend can come in and be like, let's go. I have a new restaurant I want to show you, or let's go for a hike. Movement is the best thing that kapha can do for itself. And so if we don't listen to, the excess energy of kapha, which comes in a form of heaviness, dullness, lethargy, maybe heavy excess mucus, if you look at your tongue in the mirror in the morning and there's a thick white coating on it, then you know that things are not circulating. The organ the system of the body that is really connected to kapha is the lymphatic system. Lymphatic system does not have an organ to move it. So if we don't move, it just gets stuck. And so when the liquids of the body are not moving, we become heavy. We become dull. We can't think straight. There's like a fogginess in the mind. These are some of the things that could happen to kapha. And then that feeling of stubbornness comes, sometimes they can become emotionally overeating creatures, because it's like, oh, let's just, that couch potato feeling can happen. And if any of these happen, then we need to help our kapha friend or our kapha constitution inside of us by bringing a little bit of fire, So for kaphas, it's actually really good to have stimulating experiences and stimulating food. Like spicy food, only kaphas can handle that, because for vatas, it's too fiery. It's too aggravating for their mind. And for pittas, it just creates them very furious. It creates that kind of anger and frustration. But kaphas can handle that. Another thing that they can handle is coffee, So like, not all day long, but usually coffee and caffeine and stimulants like that doesn't affect kapha people as much as it affects pitta and vata. Foods that are a bit warming and a bit bitter and pungent and astringent in nature are really good for kapha. So that's like all the leafy greens cooked in ginger and turmeric, all the spices, coriander, all of that is really good for kapha constitution. But eating less heavy foods. So like anything that you put on your plate and it goes, like potatoes or mashed potatoes or like lasagna or pasta, things like that are not really kapha friend. Even dairy is really heavy for kapha. So lighter foods are really brilliant for them. And you know what? I just want to mention this as well, that one of the greatest ways we can control our mood and our mind is the food, because food really affects us. So just watch what you eat today and how you feel the next day. I have observed in myself, if I eat a lot of kapha excess food, which is like pasta and lots of cheese on it and dairy and things like that, then the next day I see the slowness and the lethargy and the dullness in myself, versus if I eat something lighter, then I feel lighter. So it goes hand in hand.
I just love that. And that's a really good thing where you can do a food journal, right? You can write down what you ate and then just correspond all the emotions and how you feel and how you were able to handle maybe, stressful situations or good situations. I love that. That is so important. Yes. And I think I married one too. That's so funny that you said that. I'm like, yep. And when they are not feeling great, you can see, here comes the pasta, here comes the pizza. It's like, it's those, comfort foods that's not really helping. So I think that's an important thing that you said too, right? Like maybe do the opposite. If you're feeling kind of depressed and sad and heavy with emotions, eat something light, right?
Exactly. Or go for a walk. So that lightness can come in our subtle body as well by going for a jog or a walk or riding our bike, So in all areas of our life, creating lightness.